See, that part is because that's because I thought, hey, all these nice people here, I'll just propose a couple of things and see what would be interesting. So when I saw the thing about the lightning talks, I thought I would address a challenge, a complicated question that's inside my head. So here's my topic. I'm going to run through this really quick and see if we can together evaluate if Scrum is illegal. So if we learned anything in this big Microsoft case, this can't be Microsoft, the lesson is that you're not supposed to treat independent contractors as employees. You do so, they're not really independent contractors, they're employees and entitled to all of the things that employees get. So that's the rules. So the difference between an employee and an independent contractor is an employee is supposed to be someone who's working full-time for you, only for you, doing what you say, when, where, and how you say that they should do it. And an independent contractor, they do a one-time job for you, for a fee, on their schedule, with their own tools. They can even subcontract it, you hire people, whatever. They decide how it gets done. But in our industry, it's very common to augment a Scrum team with skills that that Scrum team may not have or may not have the time to learn. We go out and we hire an independent contractor. But the question is, does doing Scrum encourage you to break the law? So I went through what the IRS calls a 20-factor test for determining whether somebody is an independent contractor or an employee, and just asked the question and put that up against Scrum. So let's go through a few of them together. IRS suggests you could ask, does your company require that the worker comply with your instruction on when, where, or how she is to perform the work? For example, is telling, what does Scrum say about that? Does the person have to be on-site working, co-located with your Scrum team, delivering, starting at the beginning of the sprint and at the end of the sprint, having something to show every day, having a daily Scrum meeting? To me, I think this sounds like a fail for Scrum. Do you supervise the person or give them directions? What's the role of the Scrum Master? In some organizations, the Scrum Master supervises the people who are on the team. Now, that doesn't mean it's on all the teams. All right, sometimes the Scrum Master really does do what a Scrum Master is supposed to do, which is elevate and mentor and coach and guide. But if you've got a contractor on the team who's there to just contribute one piece of the puzzle and go away, who are they getting their direction from? To me, I think this is another fail for Scrum, because for the most part, those people, when they get integrated into the team, by definition, start to blur this line. By becoming a team member, they start to blur the line. Does the worker have control over their place or time of work? Does your company require that the work be performed on-site? So, for example, if you've got a co-located team that relies on this new skill set being introduced, is that person going to just do all their work away from the team? And maybe they contribute the code? Or is there something more like they're contributing to the team's thought process around that work, and they're integrating in? To me, that's another fail for Scrum. Does your company dictate the hours of work and or days that the person works? How long is your sprint? All right, so maybe it's 2 weeks, or 1 week, or 3 weeks, or whatever. But is that already dictating the hours or the time that somebody works? I mean, it's a fail for Scrum. Do you require that the worker devote such a substantial amount of time to the services that they couldn't perform other gainful work somewhere else? No time slicing people on your teams. Don't we know that? Fail for Scrum. Does your company provide ongoing instruction or training? I mean, I don't know how many of you work with this situation where you may have independent contractors on your teams, but as a coach offering guidance to teams, I'm constantly confronted with this dilemma. How do you get people up to speed or serving as a contractor on a team when you can't teach them anything? Well, you could mandate that the people who send the contractor to your company, like a managed service provider, make sure that they provide the training to the contractor. Or that the people that you hire have to have certain credentials. But what credentials can you require for a Scrum team member? You can have a certified Scrum developer, I suppose. But does that apply in all situations? How many people have invested in the anybody in the room invested in the CSD? I don't personally know a single person. It's always CSM or CSPO. Nobody sees, like, okay, so you're an expert in Java, are you going to invest in CSD? I don't think so. Harder to recruit for that. Another fail for Scrum. The work sequence. Does your company require that the worker follow a set order sequence? What's the rhythm of a sprint? It's got a beginning, right, with sprint planning. It's got daily Scrum meetings. There's probably some meeting in between for story time or backlog grooming. There's a definite end to the sprint. Does that sound like a sequence? Another fail for Scrum. Let's skip over a couple because I want to try to find you one that I think Scrum passes. Let's see. Tools and materials. Now, in most work environments that I see, we provide the laptop to the developer because we don't want them actually taking the IP home with them, the intellectual property. And it's also tough to make sure that their laptop integrates with our system. Okay, so we start to get into some tricky territory with so many ways that Scrum challenges the definition of an independent contractor. Okay, I finally got one. Does your company pay the worker on an hourly, weekly, or monthly schedule just as they pay employees? Thankfully, Scrum is silent on this. So Scrum can pass. Yay! What else? What else we got? Does your company pay the workers travel or other business expenses? Again, Scrum is silent. Yay, they can pass. Does the worker have a title in your company? Has anybody ever hired a contractor to be your Scrum Master?
Yes.
Serve as your product owner? Is that a title? Well, I mean, I know if you read the Scrum Guide, it says it's not a title, it's a role. Depends on how you think about it. So I gave him a pass-fail. It depends. Does the worker get employment benefits? Now, employment benefits may mean health care and stock options, but what about going out for dinner with your team? What about you ordering pizza to work through lunch? I don't know. Those sound like benefits to me. But thankfully, it depends. Does a continuing relationship exist between the worker and your company? If you hire somebody to offer a specific contribution to your team and then they go away, then there's not an implied ongoing relationship. But if they roll over from one project or one sprint to another and to another and to another because the work is constantly changing, I mean, that's the definite, or it's a benefit of Scrum, right? You can just roll the team from one priority to the next. Why not just keep the contractor? We need that skill. And so the tendency is to, rather than having that contractor teach the skill to the rest of the team, it's just to keep them around. Does that imply an ongoing relationship? I think that's what it does. I think it blurs the line. So I leave it to you. Is Scrum illegal? You decide.
No. With the exception of the training one, though, I just the contractors that we have in our company just failed every single one of those 10 questions too.
I think a lot of our companies are going to face that. And I don't think they've actually dealt with it, personally. Okay, so if I could give a little commercial, I think the answer to the question is don't hire contractors. Make sure your Scrum team is agile enough to learn new skills and that your business is savvy enough to understand it takes time to learn new things, especially when you're going into uncharted territory. Now that's easier said than done, of course. But anyway, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Wow.